Duffy Bokey is here, having been awarded physical custody of her two daughters, Rachel and Lauren. This is interesting. That may not, however, be the adjective that that Mrs. Bokey would use. She has married for a second time. Her husband, David, sits to her left. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Incidentally, you don't go on television without a lawyer anymore. Dale Parrish serves as attorney at law for the Bokeys. Now, listen to this. Here's Gerald Sims. Gerald was married to Duffy. Gerald is, and they are now divorced, but we can certainly applaud their civility. They have agreed to appear on this program together, and I want to tell you why. This was a mixed marriage. He is Jewish. She was raised Catholic. She consented prior to their marriage to convert to Judaism. Sometime thereafter, a divorce ensued. She was awarded custody of the children. He looks up to discover she's taking the kids to Mass. And the deal was that they would raise the kids in the Jewish faith. He had already taken them, shall we say, temple or synagogue? Is this conservative, reform, orthodox?
Reform.
Reform, so it's a temple. So here he is, looking across the town at his kids going to Mass. And he and his lawyer want to know, and yes, he's here with a lawyer too, Edward Huttner. How can a kid on Saturday go to temple and on Sunday go to Mass where Jesus is the Messiah? And what do you want the court to say regarding the custodial parents' rights? The mother. She is now enjoined by a court from taking her kids to Mass. If you don't help me with this show, I'm not going to be able to finish it. What?
What is she doing? Taking them to Mass?
She's taking them to Mass.
Well, I would too.
Because you're a
Catholic.
Well, you're just, yeah. You're, now wait a minute. Hold on. Do we have any Jews here? You better help me from Goyim here now, come on. What might be your thoughts at this early moment in our program in advance of talking to these guests?
My original thought is, what kind of training or what kind of program did the mother go through before she converted to Judaism? And what kind of religious upbringing did she have as a Catholic?
I assume you were raised as a good Catholic. You better say so if your parents are alive.
I went to parochial schools, and daily Mass was part of my routine.
Uh-huh. Now, let's set this straight. Did you convert to Judaism, or were you on your way to that?
I went through the conversion process.
So you became a Jew?
I went through the process. I don't believe I ever converted to Judaism in my heart. I tried the religion.
Uh-huh. Now, Mr. Huttner's come a long way without my help here, but we can anticipate his arguing that what was in your heart does not necessarily, as long as you presented to your children as a converted Jew and accompanied your family to temple, that in the eyes of the children, that was a sincere and devout conversion. So now you have the responsibility of not confusing them by introducing another faith into their young lives.
But the children were only 2 and 4 at the time of separation. They have had no synagogue. We never went to temple. When Jerry and I went to temple, we went like 2 times per year on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the children have not been to the synagogue with me. We were not practicing Jews. They were merely born.
If you were brought up as such a good Catholic and you were proud of your religion, why would you want to switch, even if it was just for the kids?
Well, if you'll pardon me, I don't know if that's germane. I mean, we have to, you got to be able to. This is still America. You can...
You can, have your kids subject to both religions, but you don't have to change yourself.
Do you have some problem with your children going to temple?
No, I do not have a problem with that. I believe that after living through what we've been told by the court of Colorado, which is one parent having physical custody and one having religious custody, that
spiritual custody, that's what they're calling
it does not work, and I truly do believe that there should be one faith for a family.
Right. Now, just for clarity here, let's make sure we understand you. You would be comfortable, or at least you would accept a judicial arrangement whereby your husband would be permitted to take your children to temple on Saturday, and you would likewise be able to take your children to your house of worship on Sunday, a Catholic church. You wouldn't accept that?
No, I think it is causing confusion for the children. I think that the court has seen me to be the more fit parent. I am the custodial parent. I believe they should be raised in one faith. I believe they should know about my husband's religion, but as far as training, I think one is very important for the children.
One faith. One. So, if your daughter comes home with a Jewish guy or your son comes home with a shiksa, one faith. Is that it? And they should what? Be legally bound to one faith. And if you're the Jew, you'd sit still if it was Catholic was the choice.
Phil, you're leaving out something that's very important.
I'm sure I am, but I'll give you a chance to fill it in just 1 second, because I want to get Brother Parrish in here. Attorney at law, Dale Parrish. Why don't you give us your briefest speech? What is it that bothers you as the counsel for Mrs. Boki?
Well, I think the best way to understand this case is to understand it from the perspective that many people who have been involved in divorces may already have, some of your viewers. This was a custody battle, and this custody battle, pitting parent against parent, went through several stages. The first stage,
I want the kids, she wants the kids, I want the kids, and the court awarded custody to the mother.
But the stages are important to recognize. The first stage was Mr. Sims taking the position that Duffy was unfit. She was not a fit mother.
For what reason? What was the...
Rather than let me get these two stages out first, the second stage, they took the position that David Boki was...
The second husband,
not a husband at that time, was a child molester, homosexual, and had AIDS.
Who said this?
This side right here.
Oh. Phil,
okay. The third stage...
No, just let him make
the third stage is where we are now, and that's religion.
In other words, you're saying the first two efforts failed on the part of the opposing legal counsel.
Correct.
Is that your point? Okay, so now comes religion. And the judge apparently sat there and said, wait a minute, Mrs. You're the mother of these children, and you converted to Judaism. Now you want to change it afterward, and a deal's a deal, and I think for the well-being of these children that I have to award spiritual custody to the father, and he can take them to temple if he wishes.
Very close. Let me tie it up for you. The judge says, I am bound by the standard which dictates in any case like this, I must make a decision that services and protects the best interests of the children. The judge says, she converted at one point, these children started in religious training as Jews, and I'm going to enter my order that will service them by giving them some continuity in that training. And what bothers me about
you present that in a very reasonable way, may I say.
What bothers me about this is that the court really did make an effort to protect the children's best interests. Lengthy findings, in fact, in the order.
Yes.
But the court unduly weighted, perhaps, the past. In other words, where the kids had come from at tender ages, mind you, instead of looking to the future and trying to figure out how that would work out, what's going to be workable in the future. And the bottom line is you can't split away from a sole custodian a portion of custody.
So your legal position is then that if this is the custodial parent, then all rights and privileges and responsibilities must accrue to the custodial parent, and included in that umbrella of daily reality is religion.
1410-130 is the statute in Colorado that says that.
So, just to make this point now, if your client wanted to become a Buddhist and bring her children to, or a Muslim or whoever, or an atheist, that's her right as a custodial?
This case has nothing to do with Christians and Jews. This would be the same issue, and you would be covering it in the same way if we were talking about Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus. It has nothing to do with the two religions.
All right. Now, enter the plaintiffs. I assume you're the plaintiffs in this case.
Called petitioner.
Petitioner, thank you. Gerald Sims was awarded spiritual custody of his 2 daughters. Now, let's understand this. Are you at this moment continuing to take your daughters to Temple?
Yes, absolutely.
Under the terms of the decision.
Right.
Uh-huh. And so what is unresolved then?
Well, really what had happened was, in our early relationship, which was a great, loving relationship, and
How old were you when you got married? Maybe I should ask Duffy.
25.
25?
26.
Yeah.
Right. And, we were young adults, certainly adults, and got engaged. Everything was wonderful. And after the engagement, Duffy came to me and said she wanted to convert to Judaism. She wanted to have one religion for children that we might subsequently have, and she saw a real loving closeness in my family and adhered to that. Mm-hmm. And, Judaism isn't a religion that, proselytizes and seeks converts. And I really didn't, actively pursue that. And she assured me that's what she wanted to do. And we went to a Rabbi Foster in Denver, went through a process, educational classes, made the commitment. Duffy made that commitment as a young adult. And then subsequently we had 2 lovely children. We started, raising them in the Jewish religion only. Now, I know it's early, and we talk about tender years, but that's how you start with any young child, the early indoctrination and early identification process.
We're not raised in the Jewish faith at all.
The kinds of things, again, calling our children Jewish, going to religious services on high holy days, going to services. Duffy worked some evenings, so we couldn't always go to Sabbath services on Friday night, but we went to some. Always, Friday night dinner, and my family's for Shabbos dinner. That early indoctrination, and then the marriage soured, and on New Year's Eve, going from 85 to 86, when the marriage was really on the rocks, unfortunately, Duffy had come home and said Judaism just wasn't right for her. And I said, Duffy, that's fine. Whatever your theological belief is, that's what you have to pursue.
But at this time, you knew the marriage was over as well.
Marriage was coming to an end. We weren't separated yet. It was very close. And I said, Duffy, whatever religion you need to have, that's your choice. Whatever relationship with other people, that's your choice. You're your own person. But I can't negotiate the religion of our children away. You made a commitment. You were Jewish when you gave birth to our daughters. They're now Jewish. And I just can't, relinquish that. And that was the only position that could not be negotiated. And we went to court, and that was really the issue. And Judge Lawson heard it.
Uh-huh. Your children, we should repeat, are aged 7 and 5.
That's correct.
Girls.
Right.
But were you enraged to learn that your children would be taking the Mass?
Well, right when we were in the divorce proceedings, I stopped really telling the girls, you're Jewish or not Jewish, because of the fact that I knew once you go into a court and your lives become open, anything could have happened. I waited till after that decision. It was a long process, and Judge Lawson...
The decision about custody.
Yes, and once the decision was given to Duffy for custody, and then 6 months later, Judge Lawson ruled on the religious custody, and that was never appealed. We were able to tell our daughters, yes, you're going to continue to be raised Jewish, and then Duffy started, after that point, she was advised not to take the children to church.
Okay. So as we speak, she cannot take her children to Mass. Mm-hmm. But you continue to take them to temple on Saturday. Is that so?
That's right. I have the responsibility to raise them in the Jewish...
Are they with you on Friday night as well?
They're with me 3 nights a week.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
They're with me Tuesday night during the week and on Friday and Saturday nights, 2 out of every 3 weekends.
Edward Huttner, what say you at this time? You're the Denver lawyer representing Mr. Sims.
Well, when people in divorce can't resolve the issues, in America you go to a court. And you put your life in front of the court, and the judge sits there and tries to determine, especially in a case involving children, what's going to be the best arrangement for the kids.
Yeah.
Divorce is confusing enough, Phil, and I'm sure anyone who's gone through it will tell you that it's tough on the kids. Once the court makes a decision, then you abide by it. And Mrs. Bokey's conduct of having a decision that says the kids are going to be Jewish, raised by the father, and causing the continual confusion by trying to raise them in both, irrespective of what a court of law said, to me is a complete lack of integrity and disrespect for the system and harmful to the kids.
Right. Now here's the haymaker. What would you say to some members of our studio audience who may see this as just a flat-out, bitter custody dispute which is being placed in a religious wrapping for the strategic purpose of the father who has already lost his ability to convince a court that his his ex-wife is unfair?
Happy to respond. Very happy to respond. In court, Mrs. Boki told the judge what she wanted to do. She wanted to raise the children in two religions. In that same court proceeding, expert witness testified who had experienced counseling. Rabbi Steve Foster testified, and I think convinced the court by doing so, by trying to raise a child as Jewish and Christian at the same time, you're going to harm the kid. Exactly what Mrs. Boki, even after the order, continues to do. The court does not want children to be harmed. It wasn't a choice of religions. She tells us today now she wants them to be Catholic. That isn't what she told the judge. And I might add to that Mr. Parrish's comments about Mr. Sims' position in court. First of all, he wasn't there. He's been the attorney a month in a 2-year divorce. And second of all, it's completely wrong. Jerry never made any allegations against Mr. Boki. Never.
You realize, Mr. Huttner, and this is, this doesn't necessarily make you, obviously you're not in this for popularity.
No.
But you offend a lot of people when you suggest that you cannot raise a child in two different religions.
Well,
now let me just make this point. We have about, I am told, 250,000, can this be right, mixed marriages?
375,000 mixed marriages, of which this was not one of them. This was not a mixed marriage.
We have almost, coming up now, on 1 million offspring of these marriages. In 1950, something like 6% of Jews married outside their faith. Today, I think the number is 40. Am I close?
I'm not aware of the numbers.
All right, so this is the reality of our jet age potpourri society.
The melting pot.
Yes. Now, we shouldn't be surprised that a rabbi would testify in this way.
Rabbi made it very clear. It doesn't matter what religion they're raised in. They both have great merits. But give them one so it has a meaning. I think that you should know that the answer to the question you posed to Mr. Huttner was answered point blank in the custody evaluation. And the custody evaluation not only echoed your sentiments, which drew some reaction from the viewers here, that this was a tool, that the custody battle degenerated to
That's your opinion, too.
Okay, but it went one step further.
You can't look into the soul of a man. Why shouldn't Mr. Sims be given the benefit of the doubt here? If he says he's a Jew who is proud of his faith, wants to live it, was raised it, and had a deal with his ex-wife, this sounds like a broken promise here.
Divorce is broken promises. In fact...
What's the matter? Thank you, sir. Briefly, sir.
Divorce is broken promises. Children are another thing. If Duffy really cares about her children, she should keep her promise for the children's sake. If nothing else, doesn't matter what religion.
Well, I would just like to know, why is it that the kids should be raised in one religion, say Jewish, up to the age of 13? At 13, why can't they mandatorily have to study Christianity? And then after the age of 13, they will understand more and pick their own religion. And as a matter of fact, when you learn...
How do you force this law? How do you enforce this?
The same.
You want more judges, more courts, more in and out baskets, more buildings, more bureaucracies. You didn't go to temple. And how do you punish a kid who doesn't go? 13 years.
Well, how are other laws enforced? The same way that other laws are enforced, this law will also be enforced.
You enforce religious worship. That's the question. You want that?
No, I don't want the court to come into my home and to tell me what religion to practice.
But that's the consequence of your position.
I don't think so. Because you've got the choice. When a court comes into your home and tells you you can only practice Christianity, there you don't have a choice. But here you've got a choice. You can either practice Judaism and Christianity and pick which one is best.
Okay. Now this court has essentially said that her children cannot practice Christianity. How do you feel about that?
No, that's wrong. Like I said, they should be able to practice one religion up until the age where they can understand another religion, and so they don't get confused between the two.
Very good.
Phil?
Hang on, just one. Yes, I'll give you 1 second.
I seem to think that this is adding insult to injury for the children because they've already been through a bitter custody battle as it is. Mrs. Duffy was given custody of the children. Now this is another battle on top of what the children had already gone through.
Mrs. Boki, you wanted to say.
I think it's important that everybody know here that we had cooperated with the judge's decision to the best of our knowledge. They were going for religious training every Saturday. They were being picked up by Jerry Sims, taken to the Hebrew training classes, and in nowhere in that court, we did not interfere. We were letting them go, and we were trying to carry on with our lifestyle. And we, in respect to the court, did not see anywhere in the order where it said I could not take my children to church.
Mrs. Boki, in all due respect, the judge said the kids will be raised Jewish. Jewish kids do not go to church every single morning with their Christian mom. And that's why, if I can finish, that's why you were held in contempt of court.
I am from mixed marriage. I'm Christian. My husband was Jewish. We divorced for 40 years. I have 2 teenagers that I brought them up in Jewish religion. And I do not impose Christian because they were not brought up in this way. So they do practice Jewish. They consider themselves a Jewish. And I do not interfere with that. That's not fair to children.
So your position in this case would be...
Absolutely.
What?
She converted to Jewish. She took the religion as a Jewish. She has children with a Jew husband.
You make a
with
decision
a Jew
when
father.
you're 29, 30 years old, that's it?
They can, well, the children, when they grow up, they can change their beliefs. When they're old enough to understand the religion. That's my point of view.
I will give you all... Mr. Sims, sir.
I just really want to come back to a statement from the audience. We have gone through a really bitter divorce. The custody battles are bitter. It has to be over sometime. You go through it, it's tough. You open your lives up to a court and a judge makes those decisions. Right. A judge made a decision in the best interest. We're talking about what Duffy wants with Jerry. What's best for Rachel and Lauren? A judge made that decision. It should end. We should go on with our lives. We should let our children have good, decent lives now. It has to be over.
And I'll give you an opportunity, and I'll give you a chance as well in just a moment.
As far as I can see, this young woman and this young man, when they were in love, she of her own accord became Jewish. And she had those children being Jewish. Yes, she did. And this is what it's all about. And therefore she should bring those children up Jewish.
I want you to understand what we're in for here if this flies.
Yes.
As you know, it's nothing worse than the custody. He's a honey. He goes out with girls and he brings them home, and there's 3 a night, and he's terrible, and he's knowing her. Now, that's the first thing. Then sex abuse. Then he's gay. Then he's got AIDS. And if all of this else fails, he's raising the children of faith. Oh, God, the sky is falling. You will have courtrooms going nuts with it.
No. First of all, she was Jewish when she had the children. Of her own accord. They're 2 nice people. They look like they want the best for their children.
They do look
and that's what's best for the children. To be brought up in the religion of when the mother conceived them, she was Jewish, and the father is Jewish. And he's single.
What is it? I think and I apologize to the lawyers, but if we leave the legal crap aside, I think that both parents have misunderstood what religion is all about. And going also in relation to what the other lady said in the back, it's very important how to do it to bring them both in both religions. I think you have forgotten that it's not the rituals of going to the temple or the church or wearing the funny hat or the funny, clothes.
Careful, let's not start another war. You'll be making jokes about rosary beads now. Come on, shape up.
I was brought up Greek Orthodox, so they wear the funny black clothes.
Yes.
But basically they have forgotten that the good religion means to unite people instead of divide them. And I know I am in the field of clinical... I am in the field of clinical psychology, and I know that basically it doesn't mean that much for children.
Right. And that doesn't mean you know what the hell you're talking about either. No, I don't mean to dismiss your point. I thank you for making it, sir. This show's an hour long, and you see these hands back? Yes.
The children are 5 and 7, right?
Yes.
Well, what are they saying about this? I mean, do you ask them anything? What are they saying about it?
I think that at 4 and 6 years old, when we separated, they're not able to make those decisions. Sometimes as adults, we're not able to make those decisions.
My dad was a minister, and at 5 and 7 and 4, I was deciding what religion I wanted to be, and I was going out and looking at other religions, and I was forced to go to that religion, and now I don't go to church at all, because I'm sick of being forced to do what, my parents said that my religion would be.
Bill, that's the real point that the judge was concerned about. The damage to try to raise them in both religion is that they're going to end up rejecting all religion, because they're going to see it as the continual fight between mom and dad.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why the judge made a decision for these two folks.
David Boki, you really do get to speak if you're a guest on the Donahue Show. You appear here with your wife, Duffy Boki, you having married her following her divorce from Mr. Sims. We should say that you are Catholic and you want the whole family to be able to practice Catholicism together, huh? What's the matter? What's the matter? He's the one that caused all this? You're gonna blame the Catholics now again, aren't you?
Catholic.
Go ahead, Mr. Boki. What are your thoughts here? I mean, you're certainly entitled to your moment on the...
First of all, let me share with all of you out there that this is the first time in almost 2 years that I have had the opportunity to speak to anyone, because I've been involved in the most nasty custody battle that I could ever... I wish we had more than an hour. I wish we could come back and do a show on me. The court system has the ability to have what they call a sequestered hearing. And what that means is that as long as an attorney says that they're going to call you as a witness, and it's a sequestered trial, you get a private seat in the hallway. And I have had that private seat for 2 years.
What do you mean? You're not allowed into the... I don't understand your point.
You're not allowed...
In the courtroom.
You're not allowed in the courtroom?
Right.
Oh, so
Even though that I was accused of child molestation, women beating, oldest living AIDS victim to date, all types of accusations, I got to sit in the hall while this went on. And this is really a form of harassment by our opponents. That's what this is all about. So today's my first day to talk to you people. This is not a religious issue. This is number 3 of the dominoes, and we don't know what number 4 will be. But the first one was that Duffy's an unfit mom. That didn't work. The next point is Duffy's an unfit mother through affiliation because she's involved with a child molester. That didn't work. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a religious man and a religious attorney. And that is the new issue. That's what we're doing right now. Before I finish, first of all, Jerry's a very, very good and caring man. I know him. I've been having the opportunity to deal with him through some very, very difficult things. The children are the most important things right now. It doesn't matter if they're Jewish or Christian or Buddhist or nothing. What matters is that they live in a happy, healthy environment. One where they can grow and develop and feel an area that they can explore, a safe environment. What it has come down to is an issue of 2 different environments. You are Jewish. Jewish children do not go to church. You will not go to church. Mommy's a bad woman. Let's put her in jail. The other environment is, Rachel and Lauren, we will love you regardless of whether you are Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever. We love you.
Yes.
You have a place to come home to. You will always be loved here. And that's the type of home that we have. We are merely trying to live our life, and they are merely trying to take the children away using another weapon.
Yeah.
This is not a religious issue.
Mr. Boki, could you sit still for an agreement whereby you could attend Mass with your 2 stepchildren and your wife, and your stepchildren would be similarly permitted to continue to attend temple with their father?
In the beginning, it was felt and we were advised, in order to achieve what we needed to achieve, and that was that the children be with Duffy, we were advised that we publicly state that we should expose these children to 2 faiths. We felt that Jerry was a cooperating and loving man with the interests of the children at heart. We knew for sure that Duffy was, and I was just getting to know the whole situation. We now agree with the experts, and we now have lived through this, and keeping this situation in mind.
2 religions is bad idea.
2 religions is terrible. It has to be one or other or nothing. At the same time, the court of Colorado has appointed my wife's ex-husband to be a liaison to come into my home and tell me that I can't worship Christ. Or I can't worship God the way that I know God. I mean, come on.
In the company of your children. Let's understand your point.
In the company of my children. right? Now, this is also...
The court has told you cannot be accompanied by your children when you go to church.
That's exactly right. We have to get a babysitter, or I can go alone, or Duffy can go alone.
As a result of which, Mrs. Boki was sentenced to 10 days in jail.
It was suspended.
And that was suspended. The point being, right now, those kids, during the Christmas holiday, have gone in, walked into their home, and their home, on the front window, has the word Jesus painted on it. Where do you draw the line? During cross-examination...
In other words, will the court become so intrusive as to disallow a religious symbol in the home that doesn't meet...
Enforcement of this order is not only impractical, it's impossible. You can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when Mr. Sims says, we just want to end this case, we don't want to keep going in an ongoing battle, please be advised that 2.5 months ago, they filed for change of custody.
You are seeking custody of your own children.
Let's talk about that, because we hear some O's out there. When I was told by one of the people I work with, they said, Jerry, we just heard your case on the radio. Okay. We're not going to get into who called. I know I never contacted any media about this case. All of a sudden, this was a major media.
You're not surprised, I hope. I mean, this is fascinating. I know that's not the word you would use. But what's so very important about this is its consequence here.
It's a major social issue or religious issue, and it's something, when it became a national media situation, the Sims name on it, I think it was important to talk about that. But on the radio, Mr. Boki was talking and said, we're prepared to go to jail over this issue, okay? And they knew they were in violation of it. They were taking the kids to daily mass, and he said they were. Well, obviously, David's not going anywhere. It would involve Duffy going to jail, and it's a very serious situation. He had said, and I suppose that he was indicating, talking for Duffy as well, that they were that committed, or she was that committed to go to jail. What else am I going to do? You know, I'm the father. I'm going to have to take care of those children if that's going to be her decision.
I see. So in other words, their passion provokes your passion. And it's not fair to suggest that one is being obstinate when you...
I didn't have this change of custody in before this. You know, whether you believe it or not, I want this to be done with. If we all, as adults and parents, live... Wait, just done today. Okay, then just honor the court decision.
Let it be done right now.
Okay.
Let these two children live their life, and if you're such the caring man, do not tell them while you're driving around the street to cover their eyes if they see a cross. Do not be the people that say that the Christians burned the Wizard of Oz.
This is the most...
But can you prove that he said that?
No, I can't. I can bring the children in and ask. I mean, we can bring them in.
Why don't we ask why they can't abide by a court's decision? Isn't that what America's all about? That is...
I'll give you both. I promise to give you all an opportunity in just a moment.
If whether the kids want to be Catholic or not, whether they can make the decision. If Mr. Duffy won custody of it and had the children the majority of the time, then they should be Jewish. If Mrs. Duffy won, then they should be Catholic. Don't you think it's creating more confusion for the children by jumping them around like this?
Thank you for letting that stand as a rhetorical question. Are you there? I'm glad you waited high.
Hi, Phil. Happy New Year. I don't understand. This woman gets married. She's made a commitment to raise her kids as Jewish, and now she's going to change her religion if this marriage doesn't work out? I mean, you know, what's going to happen with the kids every time she decides she's not happy in a relationship?
So you want the court to enforce this,
That's right. She converted to Judaism. She made a promise.
Okay, we'll put the constables right there at the front door of St. Malachy's, and anybody who comes in that church with those kids is going to the slammer. What kind of country do you want?
She made her commitments. She promised to raise those children as being Jewish. She can't keep changing her mind every time she goes in and out of a relationship.
I'm glad you waited. Go ahead. Hi.
Yes, I'm an Orthodox Jew, and I firmly believe that spiritual custody should be awarded to the mother due to the fact that the conversion process wasn't a legitimate one. It wasn't done in the framework of Jewish law and Jewish tradition. And since it wasn't done in the framework of Jewish law and Jewish tradition, the mother was always Catholic. She was never converted.
Listen to this now. His caller is saying he's not a good enough Jew.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, sir. I'm saying that the conversion process was not done in accordance with the Jewish law and Jewish tradition.
According with orthodoxy is what you're saying.
I'm not belittling the person that did the conversion. I'm just saying that his conversion was not done in accordance with Jewish law and Jewish tradition, and therefore, the custody should be awarded to the mother because the children were never Jewish to begin with.
In other words, incidentally, would you allow Mrs. Bulky to be a citizen of Israel?
Well, right now she's Catholic.
Huh?
Right now she's Catholic.
No, I mean, as a person who's converted to Reform Judaism.
If it was done in accordance with Jewish law and Jewish tradition, then yes, by all means.
Conversion.
It was an Orthodox conversion. How's that?
She went to the mikvah. She promised to raise her children Jewish.
That doesn't mean a thing, sir.
Well, you don't know what was going on, sir. All due respect. You know nothing about the conversion.
Look.
You don't know any of the facts of the case. You're assuming.
It was not done through.
It was an Orthodox conversion, sir. Do you hear me?
No, it wasn't an Orthodox conversion.
Well, you were there?
All right. Now, I do not mean to dismiss this young man's point, but can it get more complicated than this? Especially, we have people disagreeing within the major faiths. Who is, who isn't? Who was there, or was it really authorized? Did New Testament, Old Testament? How'd you like to be a judge? Yeah.
How about canon law? She was baptized at birth. She'll be a Catholic until she dies.
As you know, I'm an expert on canon law, but I don't have time to...
I think the reality is that these parents, the birth parents of these children, are of two different faiths. And whatever they can argue about the rules, they are of two different faiths, and the kids need help in accepting that reality. And in doing so, I think they should allow the children to go to Mass because their mother is Catholic.
Can he bring them to temple on Saturday?
Certainly.
No?
I think that one big problem is that I believe in our courts, but they have to change the law. We cannot have spiritual and physical custody.
Yes.
Oh, simply, I come from a mixed marriage. My husband's not Jewish. He's not Catholic. Well, either. And I raised the children Catholic because before we got married, that was the decision. Right. And he's gone by that. My father is adopted. His parents died. They were Catholic, but his adoptive parents were Protestant. They raised him a Catholic. He was raised in a family. He went to church even though his parents didn't. And I don't see any problem with that. I think they should be Jewish just by the fact that he is the more religious of the members of the family.
But these children are living in a Catholic home, and it seems like a happy Catholic home. I can't see how you have Jewish children living in a Catholic home. I just can't see that.
And it is a
just
very
because their
happy
weekend
home.
father is Jewish doesn't mean that they should be Jewish as well.
Yes.
Right now, I just see them as children. They're just 5 and 7 years old. They're just children. I don't see why they can't. They already realize they realize there are differences between their mother and father. They're divorced. They recognize that fact, so they can just be aware of also their religious differences also.
But it does appear we have to break. I tell you, it's apparent, I think, to most of the people in this audience. We had a divorce, and custody was awarded. And my sense is that in the early go here, there could have been a deal struck whereby Mass and Temple would have been somehow accommodated, as it is in countless numbers of mixed marriages and homes around the nation, the world. And it all dissembled with the lawsuits, and people got more entrenched and more angry, and now you're both standing in cement, and you're not going to budge. And I wonder if that's necessary. And I don't mean to patronize your pain at all, because I happen to know divorce is no picnic. Would you kindly speak to that possibility here? Is not a compromise? Isn't the door open a little here, Mr. Singh?
It really gets back to the fact, when I talked about that New Year's Eve when Duffy came home, those were my convictions. Sometimes we stand up for our convictions. Now, people say you can't compromise, and on that, I could not compromise, all right?
In other words, you can't tolerate your children going to Mass.
Not as Jews, no. Not as Jews, okay? Not as Jews, okay? If we had an interfaith marriage, which we did not, we had a Jewish marriage, okay? Now, and once that had happened, okay, that was something I could not negotiate.
That is a point to remember. He married a woman who converted to Judaism. Now, is that important in terms of who's right here?
It's very important.
We'll be back in just a moment. Here is Dora Maureen Virtue, let me just give her an opportunity to make her point. You're a psychotherapist and author. You will forgive us for this brief opportunity I'm going to give you to make what point? As a person who's written a book titled My Kids Don't Live With Me Anymore, you had your own custody battle, and you have no money. And so that's the reason.
I went through 2 custody battles, and as a therapist, I've treated hundreds of parents who've gone through this. And this case just is so sad to me. I can see the parents going through the grieving that we go through when we go through a custody battle. They're both trying to regain control. They're dealing with anger, depression in ways that are probably not going to resolve themselves. I believe that this family could really go through some post-divorce counseling and come up with what they agree on instead of focusing on what they disagree on.
I think that's... Way off. Mark? Meet Mark Marhall. Am I pronouncing it correctly? You are president of the National Fathers' Rights Organization. And you wanted to say what?
Well, you know, this is another classic example of the system failing. This is an example of a man and a woman continuing to fight because they want equal responsibility in raising their children. By giving the power to one parent, the mother, he is taken out of those children's lives. When it comes down to religion, there is no judge, and the Supreme Court is not going to sit there and stand at her doorway, nor are they going to stand at his doorway. I think the important thing that these people have to realize here is that when we raise our children, we want them to be good emotionally, morally. When they grow up, they will be good people, they will give to others, and they will be healthy. And the man up there does not have a line. I've never been there, but I'm sure the man up there does not have a line and says, you're Jewish, you go in this line. We want our children to be good, to grow up well, and let that man make that decision.
So therefore you would, recommend what, son?
Well, in this particular situation, there's no way he is going to prevent her from raising the children Catholic, and there's no way you're going to prevent him from raising the children Jewish. And if I were the judge, I would throw them both out of court.
And let them work it out themselves.
Have your children expressed any preference themselves? How are they dealing with this?
Ms. Volk?
Well, the latest they have said is that they feel they should be Christian when they're with mommy and Jewish when they're with daddy, but they really don't know.
However, please.
I want to ask Mrs.
Volk. You better be very disciplined.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Please, first of all, remember that I have early childhood background. I think that's key. I can't practice in that profession anymore because of accusations made, and I'm now in the automotive industry. However, the children will please the parent that they are with regardless because of where they are developmentally. What we have seen in the home of Rachel wearing a dove necklace on her neck. Now, it doesn't matter whether she's doing it to please mommy or that she's a Christian. It doesn't matter. What matters is when the child finds out daddy is coming, that she says, oh my goodness, and has to rip that thing off her neck. Secondly, when she finds out her private world has been destroyed by the media and the camera can come into daddy's world
on the radio before any of that started. Solicited by you to raise money.
And I'm glad you brought that up, ladies and gentlemen. The reason that we didn't appeal this is because of money. We now have 2 attorneys that are working pro bono, and regardless of how people believe, whether you're Jewish, Christian, or whatever, this world functions on money. And to provide the best environment for our youngsters, we need financial assistance. So I'm soliciting.
We'll be back.
Mrs. Bokey, I just wanted to ask you a question. Why did you decide to change and then change back? And then, I just feel like I'm not understanding this, and it's not fair to your kids.
I thought that having one faith in the household would be the best for
I think
the
she wants to know about your conversion. You were raised Catholic, you became Jewish, and now you're Catholic again.
Well, because I believe that one faith was important to have in our household.
And you're allowed to do that.
I tried Judaism. It wasn't what I was raised in. It was a mistake. And the children are suffering because of it.
If you really care about your kids, why are you putting this on public air and on the radio?
I think they felt they have accepted our invitation. I believe this is their first joint appearance. Mm-hmm. They both feel they have a story to tell, and I assume you want to be able to tell it without the complications of media intervening. Is that part of the answer?
Again, once it became a national media attention, I was going to respond to it.
Yes.
what I think I see is two very stubborn parents who really need to compromise for the sake of these children.
I just feel personally that Duffy, what am I trying to say? That Duffy, I can't imagine anybody after switching religion and then going to church every day and writing Jesus on a window. I just think it's overkill.
Yeah.
I believe Duffy is definitely a Catholic by heart, and if she's got the children by full custody, religion isn't something you do on Saturdays or Sundays. It's something you do every day.
But should he be disregarded?
I chose to about two religions. I'm probably wrong. And when I got older, I chose my own religion.
Yeah, one last.
Before you destroy your kids, why don't you just give it up? She already has custody. Why are you going to keep on going?
Do you want to wrap this up at all?
The issue that's been missed is law and order. Two parties can't decide. You let a judge decide. Once the judge makes a decision, live with it.
Yes.
Spiritual custody is not a valid legal concept.
You can't because it's not enforceable?
Promotional fees paid by the father.